Hello and welcome to Glory Glory Extra with me, Kyle Quinn, and join me today is Nigel. He hasn't been on the show since the Chelsea game way back on the 29th of November. So welcome back, Nigel.
Thanks, Kyle. Good to be here.
Okay, what we're going to talk about today is what Gary Neville has said on his Sky Sports podcast about the player leaks. Then we're going to talk about the Brighton game, our final thoughts on that. Then we'll look ahead to Leeds and Watford, and then we're also going to address the story in the Daily Mirror yesterday regarding Harry Maguire and Harry Maguire's response to that. And then we'll have a quick look ahead to the fixtures that are coming in March, which look extremely difficult. So, starting off with what Gary Neville has been saying on his Sky Sports podcast this week, he says he talked about how the constant media stories are coming out about the player cliques, players not reading Ralph's training methods, the story about Chris Ormas being compared to Ted Lasso, the Netflix character, and the players seem to be making fun of him. The players wanting Pochettino as their next manager. Um, it's the same type of stuff that was coming out on the Solskjaer as well. And Neville has been saying that he knows who are the players that are leaking these stories out to the press. Well, he won't reveal who it is, but he was saying that whenever the player's agent go to the press then come to the likes of him at Sky Sports, so he knows exactly who's doing it. So, what are your thoughts on it, Nigel? And do you think Gary Neville should expose who these saboteurs are?
I think it's very unfortunate for a club of our stature to be in the press, front and back page, week in and week out. If someone is choosing for the sake of their own career, putting themselves above the club and leaking stuff to various journalists, that has to be hammered and hit in the head fairly quickly, I would have thought. We all know Gary Neville has a passion about United and give 20 years of his life to the club, so he genuinely cares. Whether chooses not to give the information to the club about what's happening so that the players directly can be asked about that, we'll wait and see. But certainly from a fan's point of view, we all want to know as quickly as possible who's responsible for this, because it's taken all the onus of our need to get into the Champions League top four. There's too much emphasis on this paper talk and not enough concentration on the next match, which is Sunday against Leeds.
Yeah, I can understand from a personal point of view. Maybe he doesn't want to do something that might be detriment to his job at Sky Sports, um, or maybe it's something to do with his access to the club. He doesn't want to, do something that might harm that. But I think the fans deserve to know who's responsible for this, and I would like him to expose them, even if it is off the record. I think the fans deserve to know who the players are that's causing this trouble inside the camp. And it just seems to be no sign of it slowing up. I mean, last night there's a story in the Daily Mirror by David McDonnell, who's their United correspondent, and he's been saying that Ranić, Ronaldo, and Maguire have had conversations about the latter relinquishing his armband for the rest of the season to take the pressure off him. Harry Maguire is reluctant to give up United's captaincy for the rest of the season for fear of losing the captaincy on a permanent basis. Harry Maguire is said to feel marginalised in terms of his authority within the United dressing room, leading to him thinking some of the players are losing respect for him. There is now a growing belief within the United dressing room that it is inevitable that Cristiano Ronaldo will replace Harry Maguire as captain. Harry Maguire has subsequently responded to this story by David McDonnell and said, "I've seen lots of reports about this club that aren't true, and this is another. Not going to start posting about everything that is written, but I needed to make this one clear. We are united and focused on Leeds on Sunday. Enjoy your day, everyone." Um, do you believe there might be some truth in this story about David McDonnell?
I have a feeling that there is truth to it, and I think it's a legacy of Ollie's day as manager and his indecisiveness. If you remember, he couldn't even decide who was going to take the penalties at the club. And then with Maguire, he made him within a month or 2 months, certainly a very short period, he made him the captain. Before he had established himself really in the back four, it was on the strength of what the club had paid for him. and his name when he came to the club and the fact he was signed by Solskjaer. Now the next manager is having to pick up the legacy of that mistake, because if you talk to most fans and what you see on online and social media is that he's had enough in the team on merit. And just because he's currently the captain of the club doesn't mean he has to be selected every single week for every single day. Currently, most fans would choose Bailly or Lindelof to play alongside Varane. Varane is well established now as the best player in the back four. And we need now Ranić. He's floated the matter, had a private discussion with both of them, and now it's up to him as the interim manager to make a decision. It can't be left; it has to be made. And if I was involved as a fan, talking to the manager, if he wanted feedback, I would be saying to him that most people watching the game, and let's face it, big crowd, 70 odd thousand, paying a fortune every alternate week in at Old Trafford. We need to see the best players on the pitch. Just because the previous manager has made a player captain doesn't mean that he should automatically be selected. If he's not playing well, and certainly this season, since the Euros, he's been disastrous in our back four, he should be rested for a while, and Varane should have an established new partner put beside him as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think Maguire deserves to lose the captaincy, and I would rather the manager just be forthright and make that decision. He's obviously went down the diplomatic route by meeting with him and Ronaldo. It is quite amusing that Maguire says he doesn't want to give it up on a temporary basis because he fears he might lose it permanently. I think we all agree that he should never get it back if he does lose it, because he's not even worthy of a place in the starting 11, like you say. And Ronaldo is a winner who's won everything in the game. He's won everything at United as well, and he's a much more worthy captain. To be honest, in my opinion, Phil Jones is a more worthy captain than Maguire. That's how ridiculous it is that he's the captain of our football club. And he's a player, to be honest, alongside Luke Shaw, I would like to be sold in the summer. Would you agree with me?
Oh, definitely. Both players have played very poorly since the Euros. But the second thing we have to think about is uh, the England squad. And it certainly helps Maguire to get selected by Gareth Southgate because he's captain of Manchester United Football Club. That's maybe in his thoughts too about losing the captaincy this season of all seasons on an interim basis. He says, I think he's genuine when he says, if I lose it, I'll never get it back, because he's not playing well enough to get it back. So you're quite right. I think both Maguire and Shaw are both in great difficulty, not only at our club, but whether they have a future with the national team.
Yeah, I think their success with the national team last summer may have ballooned their egos a wee bit. I think they think they're better than they are, and what they've produced this season for United has been absolutely shocking. Given that the money that the club paid for the players and the wages that they're on, the return is just not been good enough. And in the short term, I would prefer either Lindelof or Bailly to partner for and Tellez to come in at left back, even though I don't think Tellez is a long term solution either. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Yeah, tell us. He certainly can deliver a dead ball very well, but he isn't. He isn't. There's none of the current four fullbacks playing two at right back, two at left back. They've all been tried now. They're certainly not at the level that we expect, and we're not going to compete with the top three in the Premier League with that sort of defence. Where there's no confidence. I feel sorry every week for the goalkeeper, and now Varane has arrived, and I'm sure he can't believe the quality that he has playing alongside him at the moment.
Okay, anyone watching or listening, please comment your thoughts down below. Like the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you like our discussions. Um, Marcus Rashford also has been in the news this week. German journalist Christian Falk has said the English players like Maguire and Rashford and co are irritated that Ronaldo wants to lead the dressing room with his own clique. This is a risk. There is a risk of a split in the team. And Rashford has subsequently responded to that on Twitter saying, "Are we making it up as we go along now? Please stop looking for divides." Um, Again, it's another very worrying story that's coming out. Rashford, like Maguire, is denying it, but it wouldn't be surprised if there's something in it. Although I'd be more inclined to believe that Harry Maguire is jealous of Ronaldo trying to lead the dressing room than Rashford. But Rashford himself has not been playing very well recently. It, maybe it's just a case of we expected too much from him. We thought maybe he was going to be at the level of Mbappe, but he's just not. He's just not that at that level of a player. He's a very good player, but he's not an absolutely world class talent like Mbappe. He's probably a player who's a 7 out of 10 really, and probably a player who would be suited to being a squad player for United in a United team that wins the league and the Champions League. Rashford's not someone who's going to get into the starting 11. So, what is your thoughts on Marcus Rashford? Would you be happy to keep him as a squad player, or if we were offered good money for him, would you take it?
Well, the first thing I would say to your first comment is that I don't think Marcus Rashford should be allowed by the club to engage with German journalists on social media. That has to be nailed on the head and stopped with immediate effect. If it's affecting the atmosphere and the scene behind the first team, it has to be stopped. We can't. They must be focusing on training and getting better for the next match rather than engaging with journalists who are really trying to bait them. Surely, Marcus Rashford is an established Premier League footballer. He's 25 years old now, played for England, scored goals for United and England. But I personally think he's peaked, Kyle. I think we're not going to get any better from the standard we got from him. Now, he had a shoulder injury. He was played like Maguire by Ollie far too many times when he was carrying an injury. Certainly didn't do the player any favours. He should have had his operation earlier rather than going to the Euros with England and not featuring at all. There was time lost that wasn't affecting games in the Premier League. But on his talent, he seems to have peaked at a level where he's better for us currently as an impact sub. Most fans would think he really doesn't start well. He doesn't, when he loses the ball, his body language is bad. He doesn't seem to come back and chase and back to get it back and pass to a teammate. He gets very defeated. As you've said on there, he keeps his head down, perhaps goes into cul-de-sacs. He blasts balls straight at goalkeepers or straight at defenders when maybe Ronaldo or Bruno are available for a pass. So he isn't producing very much at the moment. He's in the squad because we have him at the moment. But I certainly, if there was a big enough offer in June, July, August, I would consider it based on what we think he's going to help us with in the future.
Yeah, I think because of the current forward situation with Martial going out to Sevilla, Lingard has got one foot out the door. Cavani will be leaving in the summer, and obviously the Mason situation. I can't see Rashford leaving the club anytime soon. But if he were offered ridiculous money by one of the big teams in Europe, like 80 million, you'd have to consider that. But my feeling is that Rashford will be there at least in the medium term, because we won't be able to. We need a squad, obviously, and we're going to be signing a striker in the summer more than likely. So we'll be able to sign a winger as well, probably, because I'm going to be signing midfielders and probably a centre defender, maybe even a right back. So because of so many other priority areas, I don't see us replacing Rashford at the moment, and I think he will continue. But like I say, ideally, we don't want him in the starting 11 if we really want to push on and win the major honours. But he is good as an impact sub coming on for the last 20 minutes because he's electric pace, and when defenders are tired, he's the last player that anyone wants to play against. But to be playing that kind of role on 200 grand a week, it's not suitable, is it? You can't be playing substitutes that kind of money, can you?
No, absolutely not. But there are two other players. You have Ahmad and Palestri, who both can play in the wing. And if they got an offer that they couldn't refuse, they could bring both those players into the squad if you're talking about a squad of 25. Because the money we need to get players in other positions which are crucial, another centre half and a defensive midfielder, for example, we could possibly survive if those two players come in and produce the goods, and but they haven't been given the opportunity. We paid 37 million for one and 9, I think, for another. So surely they can come into a squad of 25, and we could accept an offer for Rashford. But let's see what the next manager can do with Rashford if he's still there.
Yeah, Ahmad is certainly a very exciting talent. He's probably even more, probably has even more ability than Alanga and Palestri. Um, so in the next season, I would think that he has probably more chance of establishing himself in the starting 11 if he's given an opportunity. Unfortunately, last night he didn't play in Rangers 4-2 victory away against Dortmund. I thought he might have at least come on as a substitute in that game, but he was a non-use sub. So I was hoping that would have been a great experience for him to play against a team of Dortmund's caliber in a European competition, but that hasn't happened. But maybe he'll play in the home league, and he's certainly got two more old firms that he's likely to take part in, and that'll all stand him in good stead. Because like playing at under 23s level for United isn't going to give him that type of experience, is it?
No, it's not. He definitely needs to play first team football somewhere. But there are young players that have started at other clubs who are currently in the top three at a very young age. So we could bring in a manager like the Dutch manager who perhaps will give these guys a chance and an opportunity. And I think if they get in and play well, they'll keep their places in the team.
Yeah, there's obviously been lots of talk about United signing a defensive midfielder this summer. You would like to think that's going to happen. Possibly even an attacking midfielder as well if Pogba leaves. But there is an opportunity now to bring back Jimmy Garner from Nottingham Forest to also compete for a spot in United's midfield next season. I know you've been watching him closely, and as often as you can, especially in the FA Cup games. How do you feel about how he's done at Nottingham Forest? Do you think on the basis of his performances this season and last season for Forest, he's worth a go in United's first team?
Absolutely. When you refer to McFred and that type of quality, Jimmy Garner is a guy that can hold the ball direct at both sides of the pitch, takes free kicks, penalties, corners, and has played I think 44 times for Nottingham Forest now. He's reached the age of 20. The fans love him at Forest. They'd love to see him stay there on a permanent basis. But he has the quality, and he always wanted to play for United. So let's bring him back and give him the opportunity. McFred, they have both had long opportunities. Pereira had before he went back to Brazil. Jimmy Garner has waited patiently, and I hope he can establish himself in our midfield next season.
Yeah, I think his best hope probably would be the Dutch manager coming in, because all Dutch managers are accustomed to blooding young players, even from as young as 16. So he would be an experienced player, compared to that. So yeah, I really want to see this Dutch manager come in. He's an amazing record at Ajax domestically and in Europe, and possibly could go deep into the Champions League again this season. They've won every single group game. So would he be your first choice to be Manchester United manager next season?
Oh, he would. He would indeed. Yeah. When you think back to the days when Tommy Dock came in the 70s, changed the team around, brought in young players, bought them from other divisions, but given them an opportunity pretty quickly, and they were providing entertainment week in and week out in front of big crowds. I think this guy is establishing himself in Holland, and he's ready. I think he's early 50s. He would be ready at this stage to step up to the challenge, and it is a challenge, the Premier League. But let's give him some time to get the players he wants brought in, and equally the time to unload some players who have simply been coasting there under Solskjaer, who seem to lose control, and it seemed to be a club of player power, which is why I think Ralph is now suffering with all the dressing room issues.
Yeah, the fear among the supporters is that the club are so fixated on Mauricio Pochettino that the board will appoint him in the summer and let Eric Ten Hag go to Manchester City and replace Guardiola whenever that happens. And that would be a total disaster. I think that would be the wrong move. We need to get Europe's most up and coming manager, get him to Manchester United. Let's not. When we brought in Mourinho and Van Gaal, they were past their peak. We need to get the guy who's the most up and coming manager in Europe right now, and get him to Old Trafford, because he suits United in every way. Playing attractive football, winning trophies, blood on young players. He's got everything that you expect a United manager to have in terms of his approach to the game. So we'll wait and see in that one. United have said that they briefed the press to say that they intend to appoint a manager before the end of the season. And that would say that we're becoming a competent club again, because that's exactly what Bayern Munich and Manchester City do. They appoint managers in March to take over in June, and don't do what we do by appointing a manager who's taking charge of a team in the World Cup, and he doesn't come into July, or like I was Van Gaal in the case of Moyes. He didn't start work at United until July the 1st because it wouldn't pay off his contract at Everton. If we announced that he was going to be the manager in April, let's say, that would certainly give me hope that the club is becoming more competent again. So I'm just going to talk about the Brighton game, and then I'll move on to talk about the upcoming fixtures against Leeds, Atletico, and Watford before we enter into this really difficult period in March. So we watched the Brighton game together. It was a terrible performance, but similar to West Ham, we were terrible in that game too, and we got the 3 points there as well. Whereas in the games in between, were against Middlesbrough, Burnley, and Southampton, we actually played better from an attacking point of view, but didn't get the 3 points. It's a very strange one of form that United are on at the moment. When they play badly, they win games, and when they play better, they don't win games. So, what was your takeaway from the Brighton game?
Well, as I said at the outset, I was very disappointed with it, and the issues off the pitch are becoming clear on the pitch. There seems to be the body language isn't good. The flow of people losing the ball and then fighting back. We've talked before about Liverpool and City, and let's face it, we don't like talking about those clubs, but how they succeed is that they continually press. I mean, Mo Salah scores the most goals in the Premier League, but look at his work off the ball. That is where United are currently failing. There are some players that will do it, follow the manager's direction, and some are still coasting from the legacy of Ollie. So the Brighton game was just one of a succession of games where the 11 players initially chosen, they don't seem to be in tandem with each other. And that's the focus on the manager before this game on Sunday against Leeds.
Yeah, definitely. There's an opportunity here to go to Allen Road and score goals, because we battered Leeds twice since they've came up in the home games. But in the game at Allen Road last season, behind closed doors, Leeds strangely adopted a more defensive approach, which we couldn't break down. I'm hoping that Leeds will adopt a more gun ho approach in this game and leave gaps at the back that we can exploit on the counter attack, and hopefully we take our chances. This definitely, I know it seems a bit outrageous to say going to Allen Road there's going to be a full house, that this is an opportunity to improve our goal difference, but it could be, because Leeds are reckless. They leave massive gaps at the back. They've had injury problems all season. So if we go there and play well and take our chances, there's an opportunity to score 3 or 4 goals. Are you optimistic ahead of the Leeds game?
I can't say I am because of the last few weeks, but the one thing we can say is Leeds aren't at full strength. As you said, their injuries to some of their key players, like Phillips and the centre forward and the captain Liam Cooper, they don't have a regular starting 11, and he has to pick younger players week in and week out because they don't have a big squad. So they're there for the taking if our team is up for it. But the reason I'm not positive, like many United supporters, is you don't really know whether our players are playing for each other. It's what we're doing when we haven't got the ball that's disturbing me the most. There isn't enough work. And Ralph talks about the pressing element. It's got better to some degrees, and some players will do that. But there are players there that just have been picked week in and week out for so long, and there's no pressure from people on the bench. Our bench is very, very limited, that we need everybody who starts on Sunday to be playing from the first minute to the last minute, not playing a first half, getting a goal and then going to sleep and letting the other team come at us. We have to change that attitude quickly because it's vital. I mean, when you're referring to the managers who may take over from the interim manager, they it may be a key factor in that, whether in fact we get into the top four and are playing Champions League football. So it's up to the players who are on the pitch now, Kyle, to produce it and hopefully score a few goals on Sunday.
Yeah, our plans for the summer in terms of probably the manager and when it comes to signing players, it will be dictated to by which position we play in or which position we finish in May. So yeah, it's vitally important that we get the points, the maximum points against Leeds and Watford, because looking at the run that's coming up in March is extremely difficult. We start off March by going to the Etihad to play Manchester City, at home to Tottenham. Probably not as scary as it once looked, but could be a difficult game nonetheless. And then at home to Atletico Madrid, then a trip to Anfield, and then at home to Leicester. So it's uh, two games there that stand out the most are away to Liverpool and City. In the home games, we were totally embarrassed when Solskjaer was in charge. Any points we get in those fixtures at all would be a bonus. So it just tells us that we absolutely have to get 6 points against Watford and Leeds if we want to finish in fourth position. Because I know Arsenal have games in hand, but their games in hand are against the top sides. So you'd expect them to drop points there. So if we can maybe build up a bit of a lead on Arsenal by beating Leeds and Watford, and then it would put us in a stronger position. But if we drop points in those games against the smaller teams, and then have to go into games against City and Liverpool needing wins, then we're in big trouble, aren't we?
No, without a doubt. We must get 6 points. Leeds and Watford, that's an absolute must. And then get everybody really up for the games. You shouldn't need to get up for games against City and against Liverpool. Tottenham's always difficult. Has a history of that fixture of plenty of goals, but March will be very difficult. We need everybody fit as well. With people carrying injuries, that everybody in the squad needs to be fit for those March games. They're crucial to this season.
Yeah, definitely. Another Ronaldo is ended his most recent goal drought, his worst goal drought apparently since in 12 years. So hopefully he's going to kick on now and get more goals, in particularly in these big games against City, Liverpool, and Atletico Madrid. Now he has a great record against Atletico. I think he scored 2 hat-tricks against them for Juve and for Real. He has 25 goals overall, 9 assists, and he has, amusingly enough, he has 11 yellow cards against them as well. So clearly he gets quite feisty in these games and he scores goals and gets assists. So more of the same from him, hopefully, next Wednesday night. I'm sure the crowd will be hostile against him, but he thrives on that type of atmosphere. We've seen how well he's done in the Champions League so far this season. We're probably only in it because of him. He has 6 goals in his 5 appearances. And maybe in Europe, like I said to you, obviously physically he's not at his peak, but maybe in Europe that's less of a factor because you get more time on the ball in Europe. So um, it's a 50-50 tie for me because Atletico are having as bad a season as what we're having. They lost to the bottom side there just a couple of nights ago. So if we can be on our game, then there's an opportunity for us to get through to the quarterfinals. But I think we're going to be heavily reliant on Ronaldo's brilliance here. Do you think so as well?
Oh, I do. He's a well-established European footballer from his time in Spain and Italy. He looks very comfortable in that tournament. His ambition still to score more goals and to win that tournament once more before he retired. So I think, as you say, with the way the game is played in Europe, he may get more chances just based on the time that we'll have to get it up to him. The Premier League is quicker than that, and a lot of pressure on players, as we've seen. McTominay and Fred can't cope with that sort of pressure. But in a game against Atletico, I think it could work out in our favour, and hopefully the difference will be Ronaldo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he is the match winner in this tie. You wouldn't expect United to go much further in the competition because eventually we're going to run into the likes of Bayern, City, and Liverpool. And you couldn't see us winning two-legged ties against those sides. But if we got a bit lucky and got someone a bit easier in the quarterfinals, who knows what could happen? But it's just difficult to see United with a fractured dressing room going all the way in the Champions League. We've seen sides like Liverpool and Chelsea in the past who've been nowhere near the best team on paper in Europe, and they've went on to win it, even with interim managers. But the way United's dressing room is at the moment, you just couldn't see them going all the way in the Champions League, even if they did get a bit lucky.
Yeah, that's the key factor, the current disruption in the camp, both on and off the pitch. When Liverpool won in 2005 and Chelsea later than that, there wasn't dressing room fractions. They concentrated on the football and getting matches won. That's where we're going wrong big time.
Yeah, it seems to be every few days now the stories coming out, and maybe they're not all true, but I would say there's no smoke without fire. So what anything that happens in the Champions League is a bonus. What we want is just to scrape fourth position, and then we can start planning for next season and get this Dutch manager in. And obviously, there's a lot of players are going to be leaving on a free transfer as well. That's Cavani, Juan Mata, Lingard, and I think there's one more as well. And then you Bailly would probably leave. Henderson would probably leave.
Yeah.
Phil Jones would probably leave. So there's going to be major gaps in the squad that need filled. But United normally only adopt a 3-in, 3-out policy in summer transfer windows. United are going to need to sign more than 3 players in this window, aren't they?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah, absolutely. I was interested to see Ralph refer to a conversation he had with Brandon Williams when United played Norwich, and he gave him some sort of assurance that if he returned from loan from Norwich, he could evolve back into the first team squad. As you know, I've liked Brandon Williams. I like his commitment and his fitness levels, and I think he could be a help to, as we've said earlier, with 4 problems at full-back level. So if we bring back a player on loan, that would be a squad player we could add to our existing 25. You know?
Yeah, Brandon Williams can play at right back or left back, so he will be an option if whoever the manager is in the summer wants to use him. I couldn't see him being the regular left back for United. The problem is we don't have anyone who we want to be holding down that spot.
No.
Same at right back. Probably the best player out of the 4 fullbacks we have currently in the squad would probably be Dallo, and he still wouldn't be, a player that I would trust. He can be hit or miss going forward, and his defending might have improved slightly from the Villarreal performance, but he's still not up to the standard that we need, is he?
No, he's not really. The other issue is the Ethan Laird position, playing in the Championship. He could come back too if we can get rid of some of the 4 players that we have in the squad. We don't know whether he's good enough or not, but it's like Jimmy Garner, bring him back and let him. So a lot of people in the backroom staff have liked Ethan Laird for many years and thought as he got stronger, played games week in and week out for a Championship team on loan, that he could be a very good evolving sort of right half, as I would call it, the days of Paddy Creer and that sort of role. He can defend and can distribute the ball to the wingers. So that's another option for us if he comes back on a permanent basis.
Definitely. I would love to see the manager in the summer give him an opportunity. Like you always say, give him 10 games and let's get a look at him.
Correct, yeah. We can't judge on 3 minutes at the end of games. We've already been embarrassed as a club by Donny van de Beek's transfer to Everton and how well he's done already. We agreed that we'd watch and see how he did for the last 4 months of the season. And Frank Lampard apparently says he's brilliant in training, is reading the players he's just joined with very quickly. I had no doubts he had the talent, just was not given the opportunity.
Yeah, both managers we've had this season, Solskjaer and Ranić, just didn't seem to fancy him. Briefings that were coming out from the club to the press were that he's not strong enough, physically strong enough to play in the Premier League. Well, he was playing in a 4-4-2 for Everton, and he dominated the midfield area in that 3-0 win over Leeds. So how is he not strong enough to play in this league? I just think that's absolute crap.
It's totally misleading to say he isn't fit enough when you look at his background and the level he attained with Ajax in the Champions League. He has been training as hard as he could and wanted the opportunity, and neither of those managers, for whatever reason, and hopefully he'll come back. And the Dutch manager, as you have said, will be there, and he certainly will give him a game and an opportunity to establish himself. Still a young man; he's only 24. He could play 6, 7, 8 years for United.
Yeah, I'd be absolutely amazed if Ten Hag became coach and didn't give him an opportunity. I mean, he's worked with him before at Ajax and they've done really well together. They seem to get on well on a personal level too. I mean, Donny was nominated for a Ballon d'Or in 2019 at Ajax. So how can you go from that to just being a player who warms the bench at United and then has to be loaned out to another Premier League club? Just absolutely baffling, isn't it?
It only happens at Old Trafford, sadly, And you
Okay,
have Jesse Lingard there too, Kyle, who won't and hasn't been given an opportunity because his future was uncertain, but he has proved it at the top level. So he has lost his England squad membership, as has Donny's lost his Dutch membership of the national team, and both of them haven't been treated very well at the current. Let's hope that the new manager will get to know a squad quickly, find out their strengths and weaknesses, and give them an opportunity and a chance to show their skills on the biggest stage of the world, the Theatre of Dreams.
Yeah, I think every supporter at United wants to see Donny van de Beek come back into the fold next season, and we want to see him prove those managers wrong at Everton this season, and then come back in and hopefully become the player we all know he can be. So Ragnick has been speaking to the press just now, and I'm just seeing some of the quotes, and he's been asked on the rumors about Ronaldo becoming the new captain. He says, I have never spoken with any player about a change of captaincy. This has never been an issue. It is me who decides who is captain. Harry Maguire is our captain, and he will stay as captain. No, that's extremely disappointing there
It is.
from the manager. Ranić has also said the atmosphere is better than it used to be a couple of weeks ago. Well, so he's admitting there was a problem a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
He says, right, the atmosphere is better than it used to be a couple of weeks ago at United because players who weren't getting game time have left on loan. So he's almost trying to say that the players who weren't playing were the ones causing the problem. I couldn't see that being the case. I still think there's issues there, but especially between Maguire and Ronaldo because Maguire is officially the club captain. Ronaldo is probably the leader of the dressing room. Given his stature and how much he's won in the game, and he's a much better player than what Maguire is. So, you can imagine there would be problems with Ronaldo stepping on Maguire's toes. So, I don't think all the problems have gone away. Like obviously, Ranić's going to try and be positive when he's talking to the press, but I'm not convinced.
No, that's very disappointing. I mean, there have been a few games where Harry Maguire, particularly, say Varane wasn't there due to injury or illness, has made terrible mistakes that has cost the team points. And the cameras have flashed on Ronaldo and Bruno throwing their hands up in the air and getting more and more exasperated by the performance of Maguire and some of his fellow defenders. That the manager has to step in there and acknowledge that's happening for a reason. And just because he's been made manager or made captain by the previous manager doesn't mean that he has to stay that way. But he's very little time to sort that out. But it's affecting the team. The body language on the pitch is not good. He'll have to address that privately. I wouldn't expect him to say anything about it today. He's asking a direct question. But I agree with you. It's very disappointing stance that he doesn't realise that both players on the pitch, established players, and the fan base know that Maguire currently isn't playing well enough to start games, never mind be captain of the club. The captain's supposed to lead by example, a la Roy Keane, etc. You want to look up to your captain. The players that are playing every Saturday and Sunday are not respecting Maguire because he's lost his confidence. I couldn't see him getting into an England squad really on the basis of how he's playing at the moment.
Yeah, you can't have your captain being the biggest liability in the starting 11. It just doesn't make any sense. But I'm not surprised that the captaincy wasn't changed by the interim manager midway through the season. I didn't expect him to do that. But in the summer, a decision has to be made by whoever's in charge. And whoever it is, whether it be De Gea, Ronaldo or Bruno, Varane, whoever, somebody needs to be made captain who's going to be someone that we're going to rely on, someone who's going to be leading by example, because obviously Maguire is not that player, and I'd be very, very disappointed if Maguire was the captain next season.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's 15 games left in the league, but I hope the underlying message from Ralph to the press and to the fans today isn't that Maguire has to be selected because he's captain. If he's playing badly, he has to be dropped like everybody else. Doesn't matter who he's captain of the football club. I've known in the past many captains who have had periods where they weren't good, but they went to the bench and fought their way back in and re-established themselves. Maguire seems to think because Ollie gave him that glowing reference, he was playing so well, that he was going to be the long-term captain. That has to be looked at, and whether it's the interim manager or the next manager, as you said, needs to be dealt with fairly quickly. It's obvious there needs to be change there.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to finish off today by asking you for your prediction for the Leeds game. I'm going to stick with my incredibly positive prediction and go with 4-1. I think we'll concede, but there's going to be an opportunity here for us to score goals if Leeds play the way they usually do. So I'm going for 4-1. What about you?
I'm going for an away win, but I'll call it 2-1, not 4-1. If it's 4-1, I'll be deliriously happy.
Okay, if everyone could give us a wee like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your predictions down below. Okay, Nigel, that wraps it up for today, and it's been great to have you back on.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.